Start our public comment period.
Yeah, let's just start her up.
All right, folks, welcome to Town Hall. In a minute, our good town clerk, Charlie Madigan, will take attendance and we'll have the pledge. Just so you understand, we have two public comments tonight, one at 7:30 for any general matters like we do every time we have a regular town board meeting. And then at 8 o'clock, we have a public hearing on the budget. So depending on what you're here for, if you want to speak, you can choose which session you'd like to speak in. And Charlie, would you like to bring us into session officially?
I would. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the town of Orangetown. This is the regular town board meeting. This is Wednesday, November 5th. And a roll call, Councilman Troy.
Present.
Councilman Divney.
Here.
Councilman Moore.
Here.
Councilman Valentine.
Here.
And Supervisor Stewart.
Here, thanks a lot.
And I'm going to ask, because of Veterans Day, I'm going to ask Paul Valentine, but not as a councilman, but as a former Marine, to please lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Aren't you supposed to go or something?
Thank you so much for that, Paul. If we could just have, maybe, Eric, you're so good at this, if you could just grab those sign-in sheets, or maybe at least the one for 7:30. Thanks. And also on the theme of Veterans Day coming up, we do have the annual celebration of Veterans Day at the Walkway of Heroes in Tapan. It's a town park developed in partnership with the VFW, Raymond DiMiola from Blauvelt, and that's at 10 o'clock on Sunday. And everybody's invited to come out and pay your respects to the veterans and see the park in celebration of Veterans Day. The agenda tonight, I got an announcement or two. We have public comment at 7:30. We have a public hearing on our budget. A few matters which the board reviewed at our workshop meeting last week, and a couple of items which have come in during the week, which we had to get on the agenda for tonight. And so it's not a long agenda, but there's some important matters on there. I did want to say we do have some appointments to the land use boards, and maybe we'll move those up if it's okay with the rest of the town board. We'll try to get those done earlier in the agenda. So having said that, I'll make a motion to have our open our public comment period for general comments on anything that you want the town board to hear about. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second from Tom Moore. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Let's see. We do have a sign-in sheet. Sorry, it's got a handout about filming revenues. So for a regular meeting public comment, the first person signed in is Ed Beatty. Mr. Beatty, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the podium here. We are on television, and the audio, although we may be able to hear you, if you use the microphone within 4 or 5 inches of your chin there, then folks on TV will be able to hear you too.
Thank you. Thank you. My name's Edward Beatty. I'm a member of Excelsior Fire Engine Company. We were understanding that we're doing a renovation at our firehouse, and we were brought up to the attention last year in April that the town was no longer waiving fees for anybody. And as of last meeting, you guys had waived the fees for the gala committee, so we were very concerned as our membership and being a not-for-profit and not asking for any taxpayer help for our project. We were kind of very concerned because now you've turned down St. Margaret's, you turned down St. Catherine's, and you've turned down the fire company who's been in service since 1912, protecting the community. We just had a deep concern about, now you're opening the floodgates for everybody else of what's going on. So we would like to see something rectified about this situation. It's either you impose a rule and follow the rule and not rescind it on a special group, or you stick with your rule. So we're here to say either, or we're asking to either you rescind your thing on the Gaelic or rescind our permit fees. You know, we paid $9,000 in permit fees out of our fire company, out of our own money, not the public's money, not the taxpayers' money. You know, we're spending a lot of money to update our building for, you know, to go green, to go ADA, to put sprinklers in the building to help the public. And all these volunteers in Pearl River are doing this for free, of course. So it's, you're not charging us, you're actually charging everybody in the town of Pearl River this permit fee, which doesn't make sense. So, and that's it. So,
Thank you for your comment. It just, we just explained to others who are here, might not have spoken before, we do have a 3-minute limit. We appreciate your comment. You're absolutely, that was a divided vote a week or so ago. Some of us supported the matter and others didn't. The town board will have a chance to respond to your question once we've heard other people's comments. So don't go away. Please bear with us for a minute or two while we give everybody else a chance to
Yes.
comment about whatever it is that they're here for.
thank you.
Then we'll get back to that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mr. Beatty. And then we've got Esther Baitler.
Good evening, Supervisor Stewart and town board members. Hi, my name is Esther Ann Baitler, and I'm a consumer who lives at the Kathy Lucan Independent Living Center in Spark Hill. I would like to know what is really going on with getting our new sidewalks. I'm tired of seeing accidents happening on 340. I want to know why Oak Tree Road got their contractors. Meanwhile, why couldn't they do our work? It's really a matter of safety so that our people can walk safely and people from Dominican Convent and Stack can walk safely. This has been going on for over a year.
Yeah, we understand how frustrated you are.
It really is. And I feel like they're just dragging their feet with the process. All I hear is it's the state. That's not a real appropriate answer. Something has to get done. And it's truly not right that I've seen accidents on 340 at night. I've seen it near Thorpe at 7 to 8 o'clock at night. How much longer is this going to really go on for? We are important. We're the ones who live out in the community, and we deserve to get new sidewalks, as
Esther,
well as new lighting.
Everybody on this town board and in this room agrees about the importance of the sidewalks, and it's just genuinely, you know, public works projects take a number of years.
But there should have
And
been money allocated,
the
and it
money
was.
has been allocated, contracts have been assigned, permits are being delivered by New York State Department of Transportation, and the sidewalk isn't going to be
Why
built.
couldn't we get the same contractors?
It's
As Oak
a
Tree
complex
Road?
affair, and they take a long time. But I
What's fair
completely
is fair for
sympathize with you.
everybody.
I don't mean to be in a debate, but we've heard this pretty much every week, and we do appreciate your frustration.
Andy,
Thank you.
Dennis will agree that this should be moved.
I think
And
we
it
all
should
agree.
be done. I don't think it's right. You know, you do for one people, but not others. It's not fair, Andy, and we shouldn't have to sit back and wait another year for it. This is really not fair. It's just excuses after excuses.
Thanks for your
And I
comment.
want to know what's going to be done.
We'll
Are you
provide.
going to wait for another accident before you deal with it?
Thank you, Esther.
Have a great night.
We have another person signed up under public comment, Mr. Michael Mandel from Pearl River.
Good evening Supervisor Stewart and members of the town board. For the record, my name is Michael Mandel. I'm a resident of Pearl River. Just a couple of remarks tonight. I'm beating a dead horse, but every time I see another tax certiorari case, I always say, what school district? Now, I assume the Tweed Boulevard one here, number 5, is the Nyack School District. But, it would be nice if it was just put in there, as I probably asked 10 times over the last number of years. And you said it would be in and still waiting.
Yeah, the first I heard you ask for that was about 2 weeks ago.
No, going back before you were
Okay.
supervisor.
But
to-
we
to
agree with that
previous.
request, and we'll make sure that that information is
Okay.
provided.
And secondly, in regards to item number 8, and the enforcement, the appointment of a parking enforcement aide, is that a replacement or is this a new job? Replacement? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mandel. Mr. Kevin Stapleton from Orangeburg, please. And welcome to Orangetown. I understand you moved here recently.
Thank you. Yes, I moved here in February. I'm new to the area. My name's Kevin Stapleton. I'm a paramedic at New York Presbyterian. I work in Midtown in New York City. I love the town. Thanks for having me. I'm here, I guess, on a quality of life issue. I was discussing with Andrew, and we've come to that conclusion. I'm asking you guys to put in a Jersey barrier. It's like a sound barrier along Orangeburg Road, on the south side of Orangeburg Road. Orangeburg Road runs east and west. I'm hoping that you guys would install it between Blithedale and Dutchess Drive. It's the part of the town that's adjacent to the road. There's a lot of houses. I live actually on Rutgers Road West. It's the part of the town that's actually like down off the road. There's a lot of kids over there. There's a lot of traffic on that road. It's noise pollution. There's a big truck. I think a lot of trucks use that road from the industrial park behind Veterans Memorial Park. So there's a lot of trucks using it, cars. Noise pollution, I know with all of the issues the town's probably facing, this is going to be your last, but I'm probably going to make it my life's work on getting this wall installed. So I'm here to start the ball rolling. If you ever exit on 59 going east towards the mall, you'll see, and I think that's West Nyack, you'll see a wall very similar to that. So somehow that town got the wall installed on 59. So I'm hoping most likely I'll get this wall installed on Orangeburg Road. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I hope you really consider putting this wall up and making that part of Orangeburg a lot quieter and safer and better quality of life for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, sir, and welcome to Orangetown. That's it for people who signed in. But by raise of hands, is anybody here to speak under the general public comment period? Yes, sir. Watson.
Welcome to Orangetown. My name is Watson Morgan. I live in Blauvelt. I think you're going to find that that's a county road, so I think you'd probably want to get the county involved in that also. Personally, I don't like that type of thing. I'd rather have a whole bunch of coniferous trees planted along that. That would give a huge sound and difference. Those walls are extremely expensive. That's number one. Number two, I serve on the Parks Committee and the Environmental Committee, and we come up occasionally. We haven't really given you a formal presentation of what things that we like, but one of the things that gripes me is we come up with ideas, perhaps addendums to parkland or things like that. There's a couple of places like Schuyler Road, improvement to our property that we actually own by the reservoir, to do something with that property. I don't think we should be in a real estate business to put some corporate headquarters along there. I think that was set aside for people. I mean, that people voted on getting that property. I think when we have assessments on property that to build subdivisions and you have 200 units or 300 units at X number of dollars, that money should go to the various environmental and parks. It used to be. Then it became the purview of the planning board. that they would either take it or not take it. That money, I looked at that money and said, hey, that would do a ton of good towards our self-directed enjoyment, perhaps a few more fields back in that one area, up on Schuyler Road. That would be a terrific access to Buttermilk Falls, that the town could take that one piece of property up there. But without any money, I mean, I can't write a check out. I mean, maybe some people on some of these committees say, oh, we'll just write a check out or we'll force you into doing something. I mean, I feel for the fire department, and I knew that was going to come when that vote went for the GAA to build their building with no thing, and then taking process away from St. Catherine's and other slew of nonprofit organizations, and say we're going to do it or we're not going to do it, period. And you haven't done that. You've decided, for political reasons, I suppose, to do one thing or another. I'm sorry. It should either be there or it should not be there. These organizations like OMM, my kids grew up on that 30 years ago, and we sold, we had rubber chicken dinners and sold Hershey bars, and we got it done. The people worked on those things, not writing out a check or $1,000 or $2,000 to be in the organization. Yeah, they plow the money back, but it's not a public park anymore. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. You covered a lot of topics there. Yep. Appreciate the comments. By raise of hand, anybody else for public comment? Andrew Wiley?
Hi, Andrew Wiley. So I came here tonight to just thank the Pearl River Fire Department, along with the Pearl River Ambulance Corps, the Rockland Paramedics, Rockland County Task, has like a technical force, Officer McNally, Officer Drain, and there was another officer. There were a number of people. Late last night, early this morning, my mother had needed to be gotten out of the house, and it was not an easy thing to do. And these guys, they're amazing, professional. 20, 30 guys there till 3:30 in the morning.
Wow.
You can't do enough for these guys. So if it's, if it's in your way to refund them the $9,000 or to do something for them at a later date, it'd be money well worth spent. Now, that's primarily why I came up to speak today. But the other issue regarding Esther's situation, there was, back when Kemp Venture took the property or did a deal with the property, it had to go through a planning process. And at that time, sidewalks were recommended to be put in at the expense. And somewhere along the lines, there was a determination made to waive those sidewalks. So Venture didn't have to put that expense forward. And now it's fallen on the taxpayers. That should have been done many years ago. And it should have been done by right for the benefit of those residents for safety reasons. So there is a process in which, going through project review or planning board or whatever, there are improvements that are made and recommended, and sometimes they're conditions of actual approvals. How that came about where they were not required to do it is a big issue that I think should be looked at and explained to the public. And if there was a rationale as to why, that should be applied evenly throughout any application. I think that's the biggest thing that people are concerned about, is application of things evenly and fairly. And I guess there are different histories and different things, and people have different commitments to different organizations for different reasons. But still, the public wants to see certain things. And I know you guys intend to do that, but you have to, I guess, be more concise with how that goes, in my opinion. Thank you for letting me speak. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Andrew. It's great to see you. Do we have anybody else for public comment? I'm not seeing any hands up. I have a motion to close the public comment. Second from myself. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Usually, we try to provide some clarification or response if there's not too huge a crowd, and so I'll just make a couple of responses because people have raised some good questions. Number one, the GAA building fee waiver relief was a divided vote, and so we're not all in agreement on that. Number two, on the 340 sidewalk, it's taken a long time, but I think our highway department has worked diligently on that, and it's interesting what Andrew said about perhaps parts of that sidewalk should have been built before. I don't have any knowledge of that, but it's true. Sidewalks are often built as a part of a development and paid for by the private side on that. Much of that sidewalk goes across people's yards that aren't related to Venture or Stack. And I just want to mention, in terms of Watson's comment about adding land to the park system, I did have a meeting today with a gentleman from the Open Space Institute who's interested in helping, looking for areas that might be preserved in Orangetown. And I told him that I would get him the information about that Schuyler Road little teeny piece that abuts the Buttermilk Falls Park. And I may come back to you to ask you some more questions about that. Primarily, he was interested in the dinosaur Palladino lot and what they might be able to do to try to preserve parts of that. And it is with great appreciation, I think all of us hearing Mr. Wiley's comment about the emergency responders helping his mom the other day. And I think we're all in agreement about the role of those volunteers in the community. It really is something that needs to be recognized as much as possible. So thank you for making that comment. Members of the town board, would you like to respond to any of the public comments right now?
Mr. Stapleton, Jimmy, is Orangeburg Road a county road or a state road? County, so really, we have very little that we could do over that, so you have to go up to the county legislature. You know, we'd be more than happy to support you on it, but it's really the funding and everything about that road has to go through the county. In New City, and we have 3 representatives from Orangetown that you could reach out to about that. John Murphy, Pat Maroney, and Nancy Lohogan.
Andrew, I'll send you an email so you can give me that info and I can get them all listed.
Yeah, it's the easiest thing to do is send an email or respond. You might also want to talk to your neighbors because just tonight, I mean, there could very well be various perspectives on the best ways of attenuating noise and pollution. And some might be pro-wall, others might be pro-trees, others might say, you know, so you should probably just research the matter and try to figure out where you think your best sort of solution lies. Members of the board, other comments?
That is in John Murphy's district, so I would approach him. He's the county legislator that handles your particular area of Orangetown.
He may well know of others who have expressed similar concerns, because if you're feeling it, probably others have too, and you want to find those people. Other questions or comments from, okay.
You've already followed up on Mr. Wiley's comment, but it can't be said enough how much the volunteers in the town do. So it's nice of you to come up and say that, Andy. And just, again, confirming, Mr. Mandel, we did speak just a couple of weeks ago about getting the school districts on the resolutions for the tax certs. So hopefully, going forward in the future, now going to new workshops, we'll have that. So then I always ask that question myself. And as far as the Pearl River Fire District, you know, enough can't be said on what you guys do. And I agree with you. I don't know what else to say, but I agree with you. It should be one size fits all, and that's what open, you know, government's about. And as the, I know you don't believe it, but they're pretty far along on your sidewalk compared to how long it took the Palisades, the Oak Tree Road project to go. They took about 6 years. You're gonna start probably in the spring, if I'm correct. We're sort of waiting for the state. I know you don't wanna hear it, but we can't just do what we want. We have to follow rules and regulations set forth
Well,
by,
it's a matter of people's safety.
I understand that.
So if you
I-
just say that
I,
it's gonna get done in the spring, it should have been done already.
And I think they've been working diligently on getting all of the easements and everything they need and the engineering done, and they're pretty far along. I know you don't want to hear it, but
Don't tell me accidents occurred on that road.
just to add to Paul, I mean, we're having the same problem with the state, with the sidewalks in Pearl River. We got the Department of Transportation involved, and nothing goes quickly when you're dealing with New York State. Jimmy's on it all the time. He's talking to him, he's lining everything up, but he's gotta get approvals from them, and he's gotta get their cooperation, and it doesn't get done in a short time. And
So if you want to go after,
Downtime, and you know I'm not.
so what we
No one's
need you to do, we need you to put pressure on Carlucci or Jaffe. They're from the state.
To David Carlucci,
Well-
to the board.
No, it's not. The board did everything it could, Esther. We're waiting on the state, so now it is up to the state. So call them and pressure them a little bit. Because they can push it through the state, and then Jimmy can, hands will be untied, and he can build your sidewalk.
And it's not fair.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Thank you. We have the need to move on. We had scheduled a public hearing on the town budget to start at 8 o'clock. It is now 8 o'clock. The budget, just so folks know where we are in the process, there's 3 versions of the budget before it's finished. The tentative, which came out on September 23rd, which was the work product of myself and our finance director and our finance team and working with department heads and so on. That was on the website and as a download and with other supporting materials. Then the preliminary budget, the town board as a whole passed with some small modifications of the supervisor's budget. So we have that preliminary budget. And then we have a public hearing, which is tonight, and the final, and this is a time for the town board to listen to anybody who has anything to say. We're hearing it, talking amongst ourselves, talking with our constituents and our staff, and we're welcome comments tonight at the public hearing as to anything that needs to be changed. And then on November 18th, our final budget is due according to state law and the calendar for the budget that we put together in the beginning of the year. So that's just where we stand right now. So right now, we're going to open the public hearing on the preliminary budget. So I'll make a motion to open the hearing. Can I have a second? Second from Tom Divany. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it.
I have the affidavit of publication and the notice of posting if anybody needs that.
Now, first of all, thank you, Charlie. Public hearings always have to be publicized and notified so the public knows that they can show up. And in this case, we actually didn't have anybody sign in to speak about the budget at the hearing. So I'll go straight to a raise of hand. Is anybody here who would like to say anything to the town board about the town's proposed budget for 2015? I see a hand up from Mr. Wiley. And again, the budget is available to download on the website. There's also some kind of analytical, a couple of bar charts and graphs and so on, and a separate download to give you a bigger picture. And we welcome your comments. Mr. Wiley?
Okay, well, there's a few issues that I wanted to try to address, which I don't think it was addressed necessarily in the budget. But I've been in front of the board in the past, but I haven't been in this board as it's constituted today. And my hope is that the board together will come up with a vote or some sort of a resolution and send it up to the county legislators and get the county legislators on Orangetown on board about either looking at the agreement with regards to the sewer station that's located here, with regards to a host fee, and if in fact there is some sort of agreement, it is in effect, to look at the legal basis as to what is going on with that. If we have any checks and balances, are they exceeding their original agreement in flow? And if there's any other mitigating issues. We had a situation where we had to resolve something in Clarkstown where we had to pay legal fees for stuff that we may or may not have done, but it was a prudent thing to do to stem off liability issues. My issue is we've got liability issues right now. We have property values and assessments in the town of Orangetown that are being diminished. So from an assessment point of view, properties from Tapan, Spark Hill, and around that specific area is suffering because of the smells and the other issues the sewer station is doing. Sometimes it may be the town, sometimes it's the county, and it goes back and forth on blaming. but we pay host fees on our tax bills for solid waste. And they're talking about all these additional authorities, like a water district and all these other different things. I think it's time that Orangetown stand together, and I think you guys can do this, get the county legislators on board, and make a request that Orangetown should be paid a host fee similar to some rational basis that all the towns that are doing, that are participating. I believe maybe Haverstraw might get it, Clarkstown gets it, Ramapo gets it. The only town that's really not getting it, getting shortchanged, is Orangetown. And for that matter, and I've brought this to your attention on the assessments, Orangetown, if you look at the county budget, please take the time, I'll see if I can get it. I don't know if they, when they allocate the revenue to the individual towns, part of it's based on your total police, part of it's based on your total budget.
Are you talking about the sales tax revenue?
Yeah, sometimes it's the sales tax revenue, but it also from an apportionment of on your assessments. Orangetown, on a dollar for dollar basis, we're assessed at higher numbers. And so there's issues with regards to whether or not we're artificially subsidizing other towns in the county. I think there should be a review. I think you should ask Mr. Kenny prepare some sort of an analysis for you guys, and to look at, Mr. Moore could look at it, Mr. Diviny could look at it from legal aspects, Mr. Valentine could look at business. There's a variety of you guys that have expertise that can look at it and make an analysis to see whether or not we are in fact being shortchanged from revenue from the county, which I believe we are. And I actually think we're overpaying. So there, you know, there's two main things, the assessment and the sewer. And that could add up to $1 million or a couple $1 million. And it's something, it's just gonna take some time and some hard work. So I'm hoping you guys will take a look at that. You may not be able to get it done for this specific budget, but it will take some time. Talk to the legislators, put a vote together, schedule a vote, and send it up to the county legislators. Mr. Maroney could introduce it, Mr. Murphy could introduce it, Nancy Lowe Hogan could introduce it, and get it done. We have an opportunity to make a difference on that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that comment, Mr. Wiley. Really thought-provoking. There's a number of things that we should follow up on that. But I want to see who else might be here to make a comment about the town budget, since we're in that public hearing. Yes, sir, with your hand up. If you could just come up. Yeah, please do, just because of make it easier for people to hear you, who you're in the whole room.
My name is David Newman. I'm a Nyack resident. I'm here for one reason, and that's to support what's already in the preliminary budget in the sense that we have a budget that is within the cap. It's very important for us to stay within that cap as overburdened taxpayers within the town. And I also understand and want to express appreciation for the efforts to keep the operational budget under control. As I understand, there are actually some necessary cuts that have been implemented. So I think we all have to look at what's reasonable in terms of the strains that are being put on the taxpayer. So I'm here to express support for those two things. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming out. David Newman from Nyack. I see a hand up, Anne-Marie Ewell. And by the way, for one of the technical things about public hearings is when we do a scheduled public hearing, like for a budget, the comment period is actually, by law, 5 minutes. So since this machine does 3, I'm doing 3. But if for some reason, and I doubt this is going to be the case tonight, somebody needed to go on, I would reset the clock.
Thanks for the opportunity to be able to comment about the budget. First, I want to thank the town board for looking at the budget and approving the supervisor budget with a majority. And as Andy had said before, with only a few minor adjustments. So it's really good to see that you're all working under the same guidelines and that you stayed underneath the New York State tax cap. So thank you very much for that. Within the budget itself, though, I don't really have any direct comments about line by line, but I do have some two really important large questions that I was hoping that you might be able to address. One of them, obviously, is the fund balance. I know from, I don't have the exact number in front of me, I know we're somewhere in the $20 million range, which is a large amount of money, and the percentage is obviously very high. So I'd like to know what the town board is using or plans to use the money for, especially since it proportionally grew from last year, and maybe you can reiterate those numbers for us. I know that last year you appropriated almost $2.7 million to stay under the cap, and I'm very happy to see that this year that has diminished a lot. And if I read the budget correctly, and you confirm this for me, it's about $200,000 in change that you'll be using from the fund balance to keep us under the tax cap. And I think that we all understand, and I don't have to reiterate this to you, but even to the audience, that any time that you're using fund balance money to stay under the tax cap, it can get very dangerous as we move forward. So I was hoping that you might be able to address some of the ideas that you're using for the fund balance. And also, too, the other thing that we need to talk about is debt service. As I was looking through the budget, I didn't see any new bonds that were coming out. So I was curious to know if that was happening in 2015, and also, too, what bonds will be coming due, because I know that there are a few bonds based on when we took them out and the interest rates that we took them out. How will we be paying that as well? So, thank you.
Thanks for those questions. Anybody else for a comment during our public hearing on the budget by raise of hands? All right, not seeing any hands up. I have a motion to close the public portion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second for more. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so the public comment period is closed. Some really good comments and questions have been raised, and we can't respond to them in detail. But I think it would behoove us, actually, maybe if I could just have Jeff come up to the podium for a minute, because just to respond to make sure that the answers are very briefly anyway, in terms of the status of our fund balance and plans for bonding or debt service in the coming year.
The fund balance is part of the hearing. The budget's not done, so.
Right, but we've had questions, and the folks are here, and just a minute, if you would just give us a little recap of that. We've discussed it on the board a number of times, so it's just really for folks who might be intrigued by Anne Marie's questions.
At the end of 2013, we were at 20.4 million. We did budget to use 2.7 million in fund balance in 2014, so obviously that fund balance is going to go down by that amount, give or take. And then the current budget includes $311,000 in fund balance usage. If the town board decides to amortize, that's another 1.1 million, so then that would be about 1.4 million in fund balance usage in 2015.
You meant amortizing the pension cost.
If they decide not to amortize, sorry.
Right.
Any of the pension costs. We are not, in the supervisors, or actually the tentative budget, there is no bonding for in 2015. That being said, and later on in today's agenda under new business, you will see we're applying for an EFC grant, and so we are asking for a bond resolution for that. We've already bonded for the sewer I&I work for 2014 and 2015, so this would be a 2016 event. But as a reminder, and we'll get into this later, that EFC grant pays for 25% of the entire cost of the sewer I&I work, and then that bond will be at 0% interest for 30 years for the remainder of whatever we bond for. So, and obviously we're under the DEC order of consent, but we can get into all that later, but there is no plans for bonding currently in the budget for 2015.
Hopefully that answers some of those questions that were raised. Thank you so much for that, Jeff. We're not making a decision tonight about, our final budget decision will be on November 18th.
Andy, I'd like to just say something. To go along with Mrs. Yule's comments, we as the board have also discussed using some of the fund balance to pay for the pensions instead of amortizing them, because it is taxpayer money that we are holding in account. Some of the fund balance can't be used, which Jeff didn't touch on, because it's restricted because of golf losses and stuff like that. But what we do have, we still have a healthy fund balance. So instead of kicking the can down the road on the pensions, we're pushing for using some fund balance to pay the pensions from this year, with the money from this year. we are lucky in the fact that as a town board as a whole, we've brought in some industries which kept the fund balance healthy. In fact, it has risen since since this board as a whole has been together. So I think we've been doing a pretty good job at not only keeping it under the 2% cap, but keeping our fund balance healthy. So we're going to use some of that healthy fund balance to fund the pensions instead of borrowing from the state and having to pay interest on it. So we're hoping to use a little more than what was in Andy's proposed budget.
And the numbers are, we're at about 30% fund balance, but 15%, but 15 is still a healthy number. Even if we spent the million, we'd still be at like 13 something, you know, which is still, I think, a pretty healthy fund balance. You know, and Paul brought it up, and we talked about it, and Dennis and Tom, we talked about it. You also have, the town budget will also be lowered because we won't be making that principal and interest payment in 2015, so what's that, about $200,000 that the budget, that 1 year payment will lower the budget, and I think I'm in agreement with that. Andrew? I like what you're saying, I'll back it, but the way the county's doing their budgets, they're never gonna pay us a hosting fee. They're getting rid of the mounted units, they're transferring costs onto the town. They're, you know, they had the town reimbursing them for college payment. You know, I would love to think that our legislators would support us, but they're trying to survive. I don't see them, you know, getting that passed. But I think we should have Brian Kenny present that and deliver it to our legislators. I wish I was optimistic, but I'm not about that happening, seeing how they're doing their budgeting up there and just being realistic. Well, we'll have, Andrew can sit down with us and Brian, and we'll do what you want to do. And I know I just talked to Paul. Paul said he'd support that. I'm sure the whole board will. It's just that I'm not that optimistic that the county has that kind of money to start paying us hosting fees. That's
But
about,
maybe we can use it as a negotiating chip on something.
that would be good. That would be good.
Just to that point as well, I thank the members for bringing this up and Andrew for raising really a set of questions, not just about the host fee, but also about how assessments are done and whether Orangetown is being treated fairly in that. And to note a few things. One is that there have been a number of cost shifts from the county budget over the last few years that we've had to fight back against. Fortunately, the Rockland County College tuition fee reimbursement, that one was pushed back by the towns. But the Board of Elections is still there, and they withdrew support for the police officers that we have serving on countywide task force, stuff like that. So it's been kind of a defensive action. And now with the proposed changes to the sheriff department, there are a whole bunch of potential impacts to our budget from the elimination of those and other county services. But of course, it's a matter of the county legislature and where they go with the proposed budget that they got from the county executive. And I'm hoping that they take a close look at some of those cuts in terms of what the impact on the town would be. I actually brought up that question of the host fee at the sewer district in the last year, and you know, I kind of ran into some pushback there, and it was kind of complicated, but it had to do with this shared pipe that we have that goes out to the Hudson River, and you know, it was a little tricky. And a lot of those host fees came into play with new facilities built by the Solid Waste Authority, the transfer stations and so on, and Orangetown probably correctly, you know, didn't volunteer to host a trash transfer station or something like that. But I think the sewer district can do more, the county sewer district, to support Orangetown, and we should look at the two plants that are side by side, and we should do whatever we can to redirect resources to try to get as much focus on supporting our plant, which is run very well, as we possibly can. And that's one of the matters that I brought to the county sewer district. And I think there's a possibility of some support on that, and it's something I need to talk with the town board about as well. So we've had a number of very good comments. Do we have other responses from members?
Just to contrast a little bit on why this year is a good year to pay the pension costs rather than amortizing it, where in the past we have amortized it. Paul explained well why it's good this year to pay it off. We have the excess fund balance, which is money we collected from the taxpayers already that we didn't use. And it, as he said, it saves us the debt service. In the past, we've done it for a different reason. Number one, the fund balance wasn't as large. Number two, the reason the pension costs have gone up so much over the years is it's tied to returns in the marketplace, which for a number of years were very poor, which raised the pension costs. And the philosophy was that the market's going to come back, which it is. Our pension costs should get mitigated to some extent. So by amortizing those and pushing it down the road, we're tying it better to when the market's responding and our costs won't be escalating as much, because in the past we have. But it hasn't been willy-nilly that we made these decisions. We've looked at the different ramifications. But this is the year to just pay it off, as Paul explained.
I just wanted to just note to the town board as well. Of course, one of the things we're doing is we're keeping costs as low as we can in all areas, but we're also looking for revenues and ways of saving money. And just we did have a presentation about streetlights. This is outside of our town budget because it'll take 9 months or so to mature as an issue. But the town board said, go ahead and start talking to Orange and Rockland about buying streetlights, and there's a potential we're seeing with other towns of saving hundreds of thousands of dollars a year if the town owns its streetlights instead of renting them from Orange and Rockland. So just a heads up, John Edwards and I met with about 5 individuals from Orange and Rockland today, and we kind of got that process. What they're going to do is they're going to create a database of all of the town's streetlights with a price tag for each one of them based on what kind of bulb is there and how old it is and how much is depreciated. And they'll essentially give us that information and say, okay, this is what it's going to cost you if you want to buy these, convert them to LED lights, and start running that system yourself and hopefully saving a lot of money. They said it would take about 4 weeks to turn around, but we've gotten the ball rolling on that. So within the next month or so, we'll be able to take a much more quantitative look at the potential savings from purchasing our street lights, converting them to LEDs, and getting out of paying O&R what's pretty pricey for their service.
I think that's a great initiative.
So it's possible that we could save, $150,000, $250,000 a year in costs on that, but it'll have to get figured out over the next 8 or 9 months.
It's so much better, the electricity usage is so much less, it's a great initiative. Andy, Charlie was wanting to address the board about the
Is this about your budget? Why don't you speak now, since we're in the budget discussion?
Well, I think Paul mentioned a little earlier about industry coming to the town. And I think filming isn't something that's very important, and I would like it addressed in the budget. I have sent information to you, and just to reiterate, some of the things that we've done, I think it's close to 80 films or 80 days devoted to filming in the town of Orangetown just in 2018. It takes an enormous amount of work, an enormous amount of time, and I need personnel, something more than what I have to address this, which I put in my budget. And just for the public, the film permits brought in roughly $90,000 as of 2014. Personnel and vehicles is 101, and probably about 102,000 if you round everything out, which is what I'm going to do. But pure profit, having paid the overtime even to the police, pure profit for this year is about 140,000, and the year is not over. And it seems that we're getting busier. We had a big movie that was untitled a few years ago, and that seemed to be an introduction to the filming business, and they liked how we worked with them in Orangetown. And we're very strict. We adhere by all the rules. We make them adhere to all the rules. But it is important to the people in Orangetown. If there's a film that's brought to a house, the homeowners make a certain amount of money. I'm not privy to that, but I would think that it's probably generous. I'm sure that it's a couple of $1,000s. Very often the neighbors' driveways will be used, so that's money that comes directly to our residents. And I think that's an important statement. So when I say 140,000, that's pure profit to the town. I see this as an industry, and I see it as growing. And it's something that I'd like to address. But I need more manpower to do so. I can't go to the sites, and I cannot do this by myself. My staff has been excellent in helping, and we work very closely with the police. Sergeant Detective Sullivan has been wonderful, and it takes a lot of his time. Jimmy Dean in the highway, it takes a lot of the highway time if it's on the roads, if they're going to be on the roads. We've learned to be more productive in having the following. I mean, I'd love to mention some of the movies because it's The Unforgettable, Person of Interest, The Following, The Blacklist, 0 Hours, Boardwalk Empire, Ed, Law and Order, SNL. These are very popular films. People get excited when they're here, and I see them, we're very strict until the day of filming, and the day of filming, I almost see it as a small business that needs to succeed. So when they come in, it's not just about the profit, it's also about the people that come into our community to work, and that's probably 40 to 90 to over 100 people that are also getting a paycheck, whether they live in New York City, Westchester, or Rockland, or Orange County. These are people that receive a paycheck, and I think it's important. When they come into the town, not only do they use the homes, they use the businesses. And they have used, for example, Kaufman campgrounds. And we've encouraged them to use private entities like that because when they come in, they're not invasive upon the town in any way, although the town is making money. Kaufman campgrounds makes money. They've used closed businesses. They've used their offices, and they've used not only the homes but businesses. I see this as a profitable enterprise, but when you bring in over $500,000, but it takes time and energy, and Hollywood is Hollywood, so they have to be very carefully monitored, and yet it can be very successful. People are excited by it, so I would like you to please read my request carefully, and I think it will be a successful enterprise with the town, and I see it as another industry. This is pure profit without privatizing anything that my office handles. Are there any questions? Anything that I can?
Just in terms of the numbers. First of all, kudos. You're entrepreneurial, you're serving a need, you're bringing money into the town, you're helping our neighbors and businesses participate in the film industry, and that's a really good thing. The budget that I put together didn't have increased staffing in it, period. Whether it was a vacancy in the sewer department or in the justice department or in a receiver, and that by no means indicates sort of a lack of appreciation for the activities that are happening in every single department in this town, including the clerk's office, which I really I'm excited to see the way you're honing in on an opportunity with a developing industry and positioning the town to help these people out is really important. And I know you do good work on that, because the one time when I had a frustrated film person and they came storming into my office, and I could see how complex it was, and you took care of it, and that was something.
Well, that was only the one time.
I'm saying it only ever happened really once, so
Well,
it's good. But I know they're coming into your office all the time.
And I appreciate your appreciation. My only point.
I wanted to go back to the numbers though, because I know what you're.
Okay.
But as far as when you say pure profit, you have a line here for,
Personnel-
personnel vehicles.
Personnel and vehicles, because
Is that the
I-
total amount
I've
being paid
researched-
for
I've
that?
researched that. So if it's 102,000,
Where's the 102,000?
well, it's 101,859 dollars,
Okay.
but I round
So
everything.
that's how much we collected in fees to cover the time of the
Right,
police.
and
car.
only half of that, roughly speaking, only half of that is what pays for the overtime. The vehicles, it's a police car, but the vehicles and the police personnel, which it generally is, the police personnel, half of that is what pays for the personnel.
So in other words, out of the 102 brought in so far in 2014, about 50 of that went
Right.
straight out the door in payment for overtime for a police officer.
Right,
So when
only
you said
half.
pure profit, what you meant to say was, actually, this number isn't pure profit. It's a number that shows how much we took in, but it didn't have the cost subtracted out of it, which is 50,000. So it does.
It's 90 plus 50 is 140.
I don't think that,
That's what she's.
But I'm
I'm trying to follow it.
I'm explaining that now, so,
We have
Um,
those numbers from the police department.
so I added half of the 101. I took 50% of that, roughly speaking, and the 89,400, I rounded that out to 90,000. Well, the year isn't over, so I'm probably
Okay.
going to be under more than over. So that's $140,000. That is pure profit for the town.
Right. Okay, because the total there is 191. So I was trying to figure out. So what you're
But-
saying is, if you take all the fees that are coming in for film and you subtract out the police overtime, you're left with about $140,000, not 191 for
Right.
2014. Okay.
But I'm still taking in 191,259, but
Right. It's just that you have
that's why
costs
I'm
associated with the
doing,
program.
okay, but that's why I'm doing the math. This is not about me, this is about the town and serving the people, because this very often could be 7 days a week. For me. I'm excited because I see what it does for the town, and I see the profit that it enables people to have in their pocket through filming. So that's why I'm excited. It's a lot of work, but I think it's great work that I see a very positive outcome. And I want the town to know, and I want the board to understand it, because I think it's that important.
I know the board is listening to you, so thank you for bringing it up and giving us that information. Any questions by members of the board as far as what Charlotte had to offer?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Any other comments? We just had a useful from Charlie Madigan.
Any questions at all?
We were talking internally with the department heads just now. Yeah, we're going off the system a little bit here because we,
Obviously, you opened it up again, so.
well, since, well, tell,
No, I appreciate it. No, just what exactly are you looking for then, Mrs. Madigan? I mean, in terms of personnel, or is it somewhere
Yes,
in the budget written down that I don't
In terms
have?
of personnel,
Right.
because appreciating the future, I can see that not only the filming, I would hope would grow, and I need time and development of somebody that can help me to do that. But also, in 2018, I'm to also take over the receiver's office. So I can see that I don't have a split personality. So I can see that that's going to require a lot of dedication and time and energy. And I know as a businesswoman what this is going to incorporate. And I know how important this position is, because I think this is the first time in 18 years that I've spoken publicly to enhance the request of my office. And I do worry about the pennies, because I know the dollars will follow. But I know that this is an enterprise and a business that's worthy of attention, and I see it growing. But
Thank
I
you.
le- I
We need
leave
to
it
wrap
the
up
board.
this one, so
And I agree, but just
I,
exactly like, is it?
she's asking
somebody
for an
half a
additional
day or-
position in our office.
Oh,
and we-
okay,
And we need
all
to
right.
move on.
Right,
Okay.
Thank you.
personnel.
Thank you. No, and I'm not
You're
yay
welcome.
or nay, but thank you.
Yep, thank you. Yeah,
Thank
but just
you.
to clarify, it's a
Thank you for
request
that
for
question.
additional staffing. No, we've had our public comment period. The town board is having its discussion now. And you're welcome to send me email or talk to any one of us after the meeting.
Well, I mean, we're not ending the public hearing. No, just for tonight. Well, we ended the public discussion for this part of the hearing, but the hearing's not over. We have to actually vote on the budget.
Yeah, we're not,
So we're just ending the discussion tonight because there's gonna be changes and then there's gonna be another hearing where you can come out.
I think what happened was it. Yeah, but I think Andy, I'm sorry, Andy, I think Andy originally meant for the other department heads and then, so, but I'd be more than happy to take any email questions and there'll be another chance.
Or right after the meeting.
absolutely. Yep. Thank you so much. So we're skipping over number 3, which is for in a week or two. And then what I'd like to do is just ask the board's consent to move our land use board appointments from later in the agenda to do just right now. So we'll have those taken care of. Is everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Because
We're going to reserve this number 3 vote.
Steve Sweeney and Brian Terry are here tonight. I don't know if Paul Papay came out. I don't see him. So moving to number 10 on the agenda, as we've noted earlier, we've had vacancies on the Architectural Review Board and on the Planning Board. We have some wonderful candidates. The town board has done interviews, and we really have some great people willing to serve. So number 10 is a resolution for the appointment of Brian Terry to the Architecture and Community Appearance Review Board. I'll make a motion for that, and we'll have a second, and then if there's any discussion, would anybody like to second? Second from Dennis Troy. Any discussion of this resolution here? He's appointed to fill the remainder. When you have people who leave prematurely, like Mr. Messina moved out of the state, in the case of the planning board, Mr. Foodie passed away. The new person is appointed to fill the remaining part of the term of the person who left. And so the exact number of years that, for example, Mr. Terry would be appointed for are determined by how long the person had left on their term who had to leave. And so in this case, it would start now and go through the end of 2016, which is how far Jack Messina's term would go, and then you'd be up for reappointment just like any other member. Any discussion of this resolution? Everybody all set with that? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Congratulations, and thanks for coming out tonight. Let's see. The other one I've got here is Paul Papay. This is also to Akabor, which has a vacancy, has 2 vacancies on it. Actually, in some ways, it should be second because Steve Sweeney, who serves on Akabor, is moving over to the planning board, which creates a vacancy that we need to fill. But in any case, yeah, why don't we do that, actually? So if we do number 11, or I'm sorry, number 12, is to take Steve Sweeney from the Akabor and move him to the planning board to fill the remainder of John Foodie's term. And another, just a little mention on that, we want to amend this resolution because there's an Akabor meeting tomorrow, and Steve is very much needed there to make sure that we have a quorum. So instead of making it effective tonight, if we could make it effective on Monday, that would give him the chance to finish out his work there and then move over to the planning board.
As a planning board member, will he need to do anything over the weekend, preparing for the next planning board? That we should appoint him as of Friday then?
Should we make it Friday? Okay. You run down to the building department, pick up all your materials for the next planning board meeting. So that would be for the 7th. So just as, would someone like to make a motion on the appointment of Steve Sweeney.
I'll move it.
Motion from Tom Moore. I have a second over here from Tom Divany, as amended to go from November 5th to take effect November 7th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it.
So we're doing 12 first.
We did 12 first, so that would be the date.
Right.
All right. So now there's a vacancy on the Architectural Review Board, which we need to fill. And I'm going to make a motion that Paul Papay, who has served before with distinction, be returned to the Architectural Review Board and fill the remainder of Stephen Sweeney's term, which is going to end at the end of December. But Paul is willing to do that, and so I'll make a motion for that. Can I have a second?
Just for technicalities, though, his should be effective on the 7th also then.
Right. Thank you. I'm sorry, do we have a second from over here somewhere? From Valentine? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so passed unanimously as amended for November 7th instead of November 5th, Charlie, okay? All right, thanks so much. And thanks for bringing that up, Steve, so that we could get the timing right. And congratulations, and thank you for your service to the town. Really appreciate it. It's great to have you on board. Both of these gentlemen are teachers and very knowledgeable community members, and they really bring a lot of value to this board, so thank you for that.
They're very accomplished in their teaching career. They're both department heads in tough subject areas. I know Steve actually makes physics fun for the kids, so.
Physics is not fun.
Well, if anybody can make it fun, Steve can. Now, we're going back to, I think we left off on number 4, which is approving a training related to erosion and sediment, to send some folks over for a training at the Rockland County Fire Training Center. At a motion from Divany, second from myself. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Got that one done. The tax cert for Esgate Enterprises was reviewed last week. Could someone make a motion for that?
Moved.
Move for Moore. We have a second from Dennis, maybe? Second from Dennis. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I will again remind everybody who puts these resolutions together to make sure they actually name the school district. And it should always just be remembered that the school districts are very directly involved in these questions. Number 6 is the amendment to the easement for the telecom line for the Bloomberg Data Center that goes along the edge of our park. Adjusting that easement just a little bit, and it's described fully here. I'll make a motion for that. Do I hear a second from Valentine? Any discussion or questions? We did talk about it last week, so all set. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Number 7 is a bid award for fixing a leaky roof up at our archives building in the park on top of Clausland Mountain. Would someone like to make a motion for this, please? Over here from Divany, second from
Second.
Dennis Troy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you, Eric Gorton, for coordinating that bid and making sure our vital records are protected from the elements. Number 8 is the appointment of a part-time parking enforcement aide to replace someone who retired, Joe Luciano, interviewed, background checked, and so on. He's a great guy, known well, and certainly I'm happy to make a motion for that appointment. Can I get a second? Second from Valentine. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Is Joe here tonight? No. Oh, there you are. Congratulations, Joe. It's not easy being a parking enforcement guy, so your good humor and diplomacy will surely be called upon as we hand out fines. Number 9, this is approve a bid award for a truck for the paving program, which we had described to us in technical detail last week. Can we have a motion for this, please? Move from Divany, second. Over here from Troy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Jim Dean and your staff for coordinating that, and making sure we get the right equipment for the job. 10, 11, 12 are done. Number 13 is, this is an accept receive file of documents into the town clerk's office. Moved from Divany, second from Moore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 14 has to do with the employee assistance program that the town has. It's provided through Nyack Hospital at an annual cost, and it's a service that's available to employees. I'll make a motion for that. Can I have a second?
Second?
Second from Moore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We actually have a public hearing we got to do first. Is there an audit tonight, Jeff? Yeah, there's. So we'll get to that. The next item is a public hearing related to the increase and improvement of facilities at the Orangetown Sewer District. As Jeff mentioned earlier, and maybe you could just stand up at the podium again for a second. This has to do with, we bonded for the sewer improvements, and then we applied to the state with the help of Joe Moran, obviously, in the back row there, who runs our engineering and wastewater treatment plant, to get this great deal where the state provides a zero-interest loan, and then turns around and just gives you 25% of the overall value of that project. So it's a great deal, and there's been a fair amount of paperwork, and we appreciate the town attorney's office and Jeff. And
Setting the date.
we're setting the date for the hearing, which is a required part of the process. Jeff, is there anything else that you need the board to hear, or John, about this
just
matter?
in terms of real quick overview, we bonded for 1.5 million earlier this year for the sewer I&I work in Nyack for 2014 and 2015. We're applying for this grant, and what this new bond is for an additional $2 million that will be for 2016 work and potentially any additional requirements from the DEC. We have been told we're number one on the list. We could apply just for the $1.5 million we've already bonded for, but the deadline is December 1st. We're number one on the list, so it makes sense to get this all done and apply for the whole amount at once, because you never know if they're going to run out of money prior to the full completion of the project. So that's why we decided to rush through this and add this additional amount so that we can get the full amount, because we're already number one on the list, and that's why there's a little bit of rush.
Then if we're awarded it, 25% is a grant, so we're giving
25
$500,000 free.
Correct.
And then the other 1.5 is interest-free for 30 years.
Correct.
So I give credit to Joe and yourself and Guy DiVincenzo for getting this together, and hopefully we get it awarded.
In the state of New York for investing in infrastructure. So the resolution describes the hearing process, and it sets it for November 18th at 8 o'clock. When we have a
Now-
bonding issue, we do a roll call vote so that everybody's votes are tallied
November
specifically.
18th, you're going to have this vote, but also you're going to have the budget vote.
Right.
So we'll make one at 8:05.
Well, the budget, right,
Okay.
okay.
And the budget's probably already set. What is?
All right. So roll call vote for this one.
Roll call, Councilman Troy? Yes. Councilman Dibny? Yes. Councilman Moore?
Yes.
Councilman Valentine?
Yes.
And Supervisor Stewart?
Yes, thank you very much. The audit, please.
Today's audit consists of one warrant for a total of $985,738.68. Items of interest for the board: number one, applied golf. You notice it's only $29,000. Normally it was $58,000, but it's a 10-month contract, and we're holding back the 5% depending on what their revenues are end up being. So we do. They're at $515,000 through the end of the month.
Through the end of October?
Through the end of October.
And when we have
What were they supposed to be?
The target was 575, and what he said was that he estimated it'd be 550 to 560 by the end of the year, and it looks like he's tracking for that 550 to 560.
If the weather
So,
holds up.
yes. Item number 4, Calmart Industries, $21,000 for emergency force main repairs. Number 7, Earl Kinlaw, $34,000 for a new Smithco sprayer at Blue Hill. Number 10, Global Mantello, $21,000 for fuel. Number 15, New York Department of Civil Service, $575,000 for hospitalization costs. Number 16, Peckham Industries, $62,000 for the CHIPS program. And number 22, $23,000 for highway materials, and that was Tilcon. Any questions on the audit?
Move to close the audit.
we have a motion to accept the audit. Have a second? Second from Troy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, the audit is accepted, and you're authorized to write all those checks. Is there any other business that town board members want us to discuss tonight? John, do you have something? Relating to what? The town board will adjourn proactively, and then we will have a brief executive session, as John has advised us, because we need to discuss a specific town employee in their situation. The adjournments are in memory of Domingo Marrero, Frances Elizabeth Donahue, Gene Gardner, and Robert Schwartzler. Can you write that down? Just so that because it sounds, we'll pass those along. The families get letters from the town. And I just want to mention, Gene Gardner lived right next to Memorial Park in Nyack. I don't know how many people here know her and her family, but she was the one who would raise the flag in the upper field of Nyack Memorial Park for many, many years, every single day. And she chaired our Parks Committee, and she was a really lovely lady, and she will be sorely missed. And that goes for the other individuals here as well, in whose name we're adjourning tonight. Thank you, Dennis, for that. So that's a proactive adjournment. Right now, I need to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss that individual employee's personnel situation. Can I have a second on that, please? Second from Divany. All in favor, say aye. The ayes have it. There will be no further town business tonight, but we will be coming back out of session shortly.